Testing, testing. Is this thing on? It has been a while since I've used this microphone. I have been burnt out of making videos, but we're back, and we're back with a video we've done before, but an updated version. We're talking right now about Pokemon starters, the starting Pokemon that you get in every single game. We're going to rank them from S to D tier, S being higher than A, B, C, D. You guys get the gist. Starting with Gen 1, we're going to do Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle here. And just to say, this is not competitively. This is not like which of these Pokemon are going to win you a tournament. These are just which ones I like the best, yada yada, etc., etc. Bulbasaur is A tier. Love it. Charmander is A tier, and Squirtle is A tier. To be honest, Charmander is S tier. I know Charmander gets a lot of love, but that's because Charmander was so popular as a kid for so many of us that grew up with Gen 1, Gen 2, and the whole shebang. Now, I am not a fan of Charmander and by extension Charizard getting so much love in like Gen 8 and Gen 9 and these later regions, generations, and remakes that have nothing to do with it. I feel like these three should be included together, but currently in Scarlet and Violet we only have Charmander and not Squirtle and Bulbasaur, so that is unfortunate. But in terms of which ones I personally like the best, I cannot downplay the Gen 1 starters. I think Charmander is one of my favorite starters, and that goes without saying. And then Bulbasaur and Squirtle definitely both have a awesome, awesome nostalgic place in my heart. Moving on to Gen 2, we have Chikorita, who has always been a mid-tier starter for me. Bayleaf, its second evolution, is pretty good. I do like that, but I am not a huge fan of Chikorita, and I'm not a huge fan of Megadium. So Chikorita, just going to be basic for me. Cyndaquil, I'm also going to put in basic here. This might surprise some people. And this one is, I think, the only starter for me that the reason why it is so low is due to the design, due to Game Freak's decision that Cyndaquil does not need the fire on all the time like it had on the 2D sprites, but it'll just not have fire most of the time, and then when it attacks, it gets fire. And I just think that's dumb. Charmander doesn't lose its fire on its tail, neither does Chimchar on its tail. Other fire Pokemon that have fire, most of them have the fire on them all the time. I don't understand why the Typhlosion line doesn't. But yeah, Cyndaquil just not going to be my favorite here because of literally just because of that decision. Because I think its line looks really stupid without the fire. So C tier. It's also just mono fire. It doesn't really have a whole lot going on there. Totodile's B tier. Totodile has become my favorite of the Gen 2 starters, but in a lot of ways, I think it's just like not as cool as Blastoise. I do have a friend who is like in love with Totodile, so out of respect for him, not going to talk too much crap on it. It is my favorite Gen 2 starter, like I said. Definitely B tier. Maybe a low A. I guess we'll see. But definitely B tier. Definitely the best of the Gen 2s. Gen 3, we got Trico. Love me some Trico, A tier. I love, 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 love Grovyle as well, but I actually am not as big of a fan. Or excuse me, I love Grovyle the most, but I also like Sceptile and Trico is what I should try to say here. Torchic, I'm going to put in B tier. Blaziken is amazing, but its first two forms are pretty weak. You also have the first of several fire fighting types. That's just not a very inspired typing. Trico could have been probably some type of dual type, but is just grass as it evolves. Does get that dragon type as a mega, but that's kind of eh. Mudkip, I actually really, really like, and partially for the typing, I think Water Ground is just a really, really good combination. I think all three evolutions of Mudkip are just very on point, on brand for what it's trying to be, what it's trying to do. A tier, I think it's great. Turtwig might be my favorite starter of all of them. I'm going to go ahead and put it up there in S tier. Love Turtwig, love its evolutions, especially Torterra. The typing, grass, ground, does it have a 4 times weakness that I'm an obvious one that I'm forgetting? It covers its water weakness, or the ground's water weakness, and then it covers the fire weakness that it gets from grass. So the typing seems really, really good. Again, this isn't really supposed to be by competitively, but it is very good. Chimchar also excellent. Just all of its forms are excellent. What can you say? And Piplup, same thing. In fact, I think the Gen 4 starters are really the best trio of starters. I mean, it's between them, maybe Gen 1. I could see some arguments maybe for like Gen 7 has a good one. I don't know. We'll see where we rank them all. I do think Turtwig and or excuse me, I do think that Chimchar and Piplup are going to be down here, though. They're just not my favorite in that generation, mainly just because I love Torterra. And taking a look at this, I do think we need to move Mudkip down here. I don't think it's quite on the level that these other ones are. Snivy, going to be C tier for me, just not that great of a starter. As with, what is Emboar's first form called? When I start forgetting the names, you know these Pokemon are not that much to write home about. I know Emboar has a lot of fans. Emboar has actually not gotten a lot of love, I do have to say. The Gen 5 starters, or at least Emboar, is not in any Switch game, I believe. You cannot play them in any Switch game currently, so they are locked. They're some of the only Pokemon that are locked onto Pokemon Home right now if you have them in there. So that is unfortunate. I have my original Emboar from Pokemon White all the way back there. But in terms of how much I like the Pokemon, I guess we could put it in B tier. I do think it's better than Snivy for sure. Oshawa, I am going to put it down in C tier. Its new evolution was cool, but I just think the entire evolution line is a little bit awkward. A Samurai Otter are just two things that it's very difficult to get to go together nicely. I feel like, I know we say a lot of times as they introduce new starters, we wish the starters would stay on 4 legs, but with Oshawa, it moving to 2 legs might have actually been better. Maybe get more of that samurai vibe down. Chespin's not that great. Either is its evolutions. The new animations for Chestnut's signature moves in Scarlet Violet also are not great. In fact, I may have to move Chespin down to D tier and be our first D tier Pokemon. It's just not going to be my favorite. Fennekin is C tier. Fennekin is fine. I do really like the concept of Delphox, but I do not like the execution. I don't think the style of Fire Mage really came through, at least not for me personally. I'm not sure if it's because it looked too foxy, or I don't know. I don't know. It's a fox. It kind of turned into a Fire Mage. Like I said, I like the concept, didn't really like the execution. Froakie's A tier. In fact, Froakie probably is just going to be S tier. Froakie, the favorite starter from Gen 6 of a lot of people, including me. Gen 6 is probably the only generation where I think that the fire starter is the best of them. Or excuse me, the water starter is the best of them. I usually like the fire or the grass more. But I will go ahead and put Froakie up there in S tier because I think it does belong there. Rowlette's pretty cool. Rowlette has the distinction, I believe it is the only first form starter Pokemon to be dual type. I think every other first form starter Pokemon is only fire, water, or grass. He is starting off as grass and flying, so an interesting distinction there. And honestly, the OCD in me kind of wants to put him in B tier for that because he doesn't fit the mold, but that might be a dumb reason. I'm going to go ahead and put him in A tier. Litten, I love Torracat, and then a Cineroar just looks odd. I understand why he's a fire dark type, but he should be fire fighting probably. There's just a lot of things with the Cineroar that I'm like, you know, I do like him, but he's also, I don't know, B tier. B tier is still above average. You know, most of the starters are good. That's why Pokemon has been so successful. Poplio, I'm going to go ahead and put in C tier. Primarina is cool, but I just, again, similar thing to Fennekin here. I'm just not a huge fan of the execution of that fairy water type. The first starter, and I think the only starter to be fairy type. Just not sure it really went well. Grookey, B tier. I do like Grookey and the Rillaboom line in general. It is my favorite from Gen 8, but not really going to be... I don't know. It's a similar thing with Litten here where I do like it, but I just don't love it. And that's kind of where I have to leave that. Sobble and Scorbunny are both going in D tier for me. I dislike both of their final evolutions, and their middle evolutions are nothing to write home about either. In fact, Grookey can stay here in B tier at the highest because Thwackey, his evolution is absolutely terrible. So that kind of brings him down here, but Grookey's cute, so he can be in B tier. Next we have the Gen 9 Pokemon. These are going to be the newest ones. We have Quaxly, Sprigatito, and Fuecoco. I got a lot of flack when these Pokemon were first revealed for thinking Sprigatito was the best of them, and I still think it's fantastic. That might upset some people. I still think it's fantastic. I wish it had stayed on 4 legs, but I do like Meowscarada. I like the Grass Dark typing, even though it's not that great. I like it. I like the aesthetic, and for that reason, or not for that reason, but in a similar way, I like Fuecoco. I think Fuecoco and Sprigatito are both really great. I love them both. I think they're both fantastic starter options. There's little things about them maybe that I don't like as much. So putting them in S tier here, it's going to be controversial for sure. We only have 3 other Pokemon in there. They might be A tier Pokemon. There definitely could be some recency bias here, me putting them into S tier. But hey, I can probably correct this later and get yelled at in the comments anyway. Quaxly is going to be B tier. I do like Quaxly, but I'm just not a huge fan of its evolutions. Am going to keep in that above average tier. I don't think they're garbage or terrible or anything like that, but they just are not as good as Sprigatito and Fuecocos in my mind. And that's it, guys. These are the starter Pokemon from all 9 generations of Pokemon. Let me know how I did. Let me know if I put your favorite too high, or, well, probably not too high, but probably too low I put your favorite, if we're being honest. Let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know how I should rank them and what I should rank next. It could be Pokemon or something otherwise, because we make all kinds of videos here on the channel. If that sounds good to you, consider subscribing. But with all that said, I do appreciate the viewership nonetheless. Hope you have a fantastic day, and thank you for watching.